North Korea, bin Laden. These are all fresh in 47's mind. As he likes to say, we'll see what happens. Let's bring in foreign policy expert Harley Lippman and Major John Spencer, chair of Urban Warfare Studies. All right, Major John Spencer, how is this different than Iraq? A lot of people are thinking about that war.
Yeah, I think because the goal is not regime change. Iraq was, of course, I was on the ground looking for WMDs and the intelligence was wrong. But this isn't Iraq, this isn't Libya, this isn't a regime change, nation building. We're not going to fire the entire, basically, Iraq government and institutions and then start to rebuild everything. Iran is a functioning, vibrant society of intelligent, middle class. It isn't a third world country. And yes, you don't know what comes after, but let's be clear, the goal is not regime change. The goal is limited like it should be, the destruction and complete dismantling of the Ayatollah's nuclear program. And that can be done by force and with a combination of political. Israel's doing a pretty good job of doing it by force. I don't know if you've seen, but they think they've killed 14 of the 15 nuclear scientists in their program. I mean, that's like killing Oppenheimer and the entire team before the Manhattan Project even began.
I would hate to be the 15th nuclear scientist that's still alive. Harley, what are the risks associated with a limited air campaign led by the United States against the Iranian regime?
Well, one, you could have a refugee crisis, but that's really engineered by Iran, because while Israel and America would probably warn the civilian population if there's going to be an attack, as Israel's been doing to Iran, Iran has shut down the internet. So you can't warn the Iranian people, and it makes it very difficult for them. So that's a challenge. And also, we don't want them to get into rallying around the flag where they become nationalistic. We're being attacked. We got to support our leaders. We have to be very sensitive and mindful of that. But on the other hand, think of what happened. Israel took out the nuclear reactor in Iraq. They never rebuilt it. Israel took it out in Syria. They never rebuilt it. Look at Japan in World War II. We used a nuclear bomb. Everybody thought, oh my God, you're creating a new precedent. Every country is going to use nuclear bombs in wars and conflict. No nuclear bombs have been used in 80 years. And the same thing lastly with Germany. We finished the war with Germany and everybody thought, oh my God, they're going to be people going into the woods and the hills. There's going to be resistance. They'll continue fighting. You can't beat an ideology. When you defeat an enemy, you have resolution, and that's how you have closure.
What kind of closure, Major, would it be if we did neutralize the nuclear site and took out most of the ballistic missile stockpiles, but the Ayatollah stayed in power? Is that closure?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd have to do it just like they did in Iraq in the 80s when they took out the Iraq war, and it was proved to work. You have to have inspectors. You have to trust but verify. Like, I trust this Ayatollah as far as I can throw him. But yeah, I think it would work. The complete destruction, and then he stays in power. But there's this, I mean, war is an act of force to compel your enemy to do your will. You would think the Ayatollah would get the message that President Trump is sending.
And Harlan, can you trust the Netanyahu government if we do go in there and we do take out this nuclear site? Are we still able to stop him from a decapitation strike against the Ayatollah? Because, you know, these hospitals and daycare centers get hit over and over again. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do.
Well, that's a great question. We have to think if that's a wise idea to allow him to stay in power. He has gone on his social media promising to assassinate President Trump. This is who this man is, the Ayatollah. And he's responsible for the death of over 1,000 Americans, from the Shia militias in Iraq to the Marine compound and the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. They want to destroy America. Now, if the United States really wants the Ayatollah to stay alive and puts pressure on Israel, I think, will acquiesce, because it's extremely important for Israel to have President Trump aligned with Israel and to have America a good ally and to be happy and be satisfied with what Israel is doing.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep Donald Trump happy. Major, if he does leave because of a strike or a coup or something happens to the Ayatollah, Does the army just take over, and then what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of variations of that. And as you said, the King Pahlavi has been basically trying to gather enough support for him being the expat, kind of the new government. And that's the thing, is when you get into that category, you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know if you're going to get something worse. But it is up to the 90 million non-Islamic people of Iran, the Persian majority, to make that decision. And I think they would. And we saw during the Masha Amini Women Like Freedom protest that they voted with their feet. And at this point, the regime is weakening. But this is why, again, that's not the goal of this operation.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We really appreciate your analysis.
Thank you.